Alrighty. So... Are we live?
Are we live?
I don't know.
Oh, dear.
Oh, here we go.
Yep, there we go.
That's it. Alright. Hey. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Let's see here. I think we're up and running. 5x5, good sound, good video, hopefully.
Infinite mics on the screen.
Infinite mics. Well, that's good. I mean, we are both members of the Mictinuum.
Yes.
And you can never have too many mics, right?
No.
Because the more mics you have, the more mic-activated you become. And that's pretty mic-tastic, actually. So, yeah. So welcome, everybody. This is going to be a fun one, I hope. Spent the last several hours trying to get all the tech working. And let's see, we got here desktop. Desktop only. Front cam. Let's just see here. Yeah. Welcome. So this is my first time having a guest on. It's a good friend of mine named Mike, also, and affectionately known in the community as 13th Monkey. And he's a legend, a living legend, and we'll get into why soon. So this is a little bit. This is going to be a little bit of an origin story for both of us, talking a little bit about how we came to know each other and what's transpired along the way, and so we'll get into that in a second. The plan for today is actually to discuss star forts, and so this is actually part one of what is probably going to be an ongoing series. I've got at least 5 or 6 different episodes planned, and the reason for that is that when I first started to learn about star forts and what they actually might be, it was quite a surprise to me, because as I started to reflect on different places that I'd been and lived, and started to think about it in more detail, I realized that I'd actually lived inside of about 6 of these different things and had no idea what they were. I just thought of them as bastion forts, and I also wasn't aware that there was even such a thing as a star citadel, that cities were I didn't know what these things looked like from the air, nothing. And so when I started to learn about this, it was just like mind blow after mind blow. And Mike, who's with us, say hi again there.
Hello.
Maybe just make sure everybody can hear him.
Yep. Test.
That would be kind of a crucial part to this whole thing, right?
So, yeah. I mean, I can hear you perfectly. Let's hope the audience can hear me.
Oops. All right. So there's so many different tabs. This is the first time I've had a guest. I'm using OBS. I'm trying to stream through Discord as well, and it's a lot to keep track of. So if we go back to this one here. So if you're new to this channel, this is my channel here. These are the videos. They're sorted by oldest first. And I started making videos about 3.5 years ago. And the first videos I made were on the mountain that you can see in the banner picture there at the top. It's called
You're sharing the wrong screen, Mike.
Am I sharing the wrong screen? Really?
Yes. You're sharing the Discord.
I'm sharing
there
the
you
Discord.
Go. That's it. That's your
it's
channel.
It's a delay, I think. That's what it is. Okay. All good. Can hear both? Good. So I'll try and keep track of the chat a little bit this time. I tend to forget it and get on a roll. Yeah,
Don't worry, I'll pay a bit of attention. But I've got a delay going on, I realize, with the YouTube and the actual live thing going on.
Right. Okay, I think
I think that's about like 20 or 30 seconds, but that's okay. I can manage. I just need to pay a bit of attention there when streaming the stuff.
No problem. Well, hello to Derp and Eugenie and Sherry and Michael and Shulamite, Rob the Truth, Brett, Eugenie, Brian, welcome everybody. Some familiar faces. Wonderful to have you here. Yeah, so back to the topic at hand. So I made a few videos on this mountain here long before before I ever met Mike, and we'll talk about how we met in a moment. And basically the way that came about was through this guy who a lot of people are familiar with, Andreas Exertus. He was producing a number of different videos on the subject of star forts, on Tartary, and mud floods and all sorts of different topics, and the videos were just absolutely amazing. And I remember seeing this one here with Philip Druginen, and watching a number of his videos, and then he started live streaming with a group of people through, at the time it was YouTube had Hangouts, and it was a great platform for people to come together and be able to share lots of information, and they took that away, interestingly enough. I don't think they liked the way the truther community was making use of the tech, but there were a number of people in a Discord, and I didn't even know what a Discord was. I saw a video with Andreas, and Mike was in it, and Victor Buge, who's right there, and another guy named Nathan, and Brittany. There was a whole group of people that were just, they were live streaming, and they were talking about all of these different topics that so many people are still talking about and debating about and arguing about, and everyone's out there trying to learn about this stuff because it doesn't make sense when you start looking at official stories. There's a lot of different opinions about what these things are, whether it fits in with the official historical narrative or whether they're anomalous. And one of the things that really caught me was just the sheer quantity of these star forts. I had no idea how big they were, or how far-reaching, or that they were on every single continent. Because when you do a simple Wikipedia search for star forts, you get this bastion fort narrative, and they tell you that they were built sometime between the 1500s and the 1700s, and then they stopped, I guess, after cannons were, or no, it was they were invented for the purposes of protecting against cannon fire, and I guess they became less important as time went on because of aircraft and all kinds of different new types of warfare. But it just didn't make any sense when we looked into this stuff. So saw these videos with Martin Liedtke, Victor Buge, Exertus, Roundtable, and then later on something that they were calling the Chlorifix chats, which you were a part of, Mike. And
Yes.
I saw a few of those and just loved the vibe. I loved the fact that everyone had differences of opinion, but they were able to talk about all these things, and they were open-minded, and none of you sounded batshit crazy about anything, even though you were entertaining these ideas that were completely in contradiction to mainstream narratives. But as we know from Napoleon, history is a set of lies agreed upon, and the ones who win the wars are the ones that write the history books. So I think anyone who's not really skeptical about what's happening in the present and how that ties into what they tell us about our past is not really paying close attention, and is going to have a very hard time figuring out what the heck is going on in this world, because if we don't learn from our history, we're doomed to repeat it, right? So
100%.
So at some point, I got involved also, and I can't remember, I think it's down here somewhere. They were talking about volcanoes, and I jumped into the Discord, and this gets to how you and I met, obviously, because you were the first person I talked to. And so I had to download the software, and there was an invite, and I came in, and it's a complicated bit of software that takes a little while to get the hang of, and but it was so cool because it wasn't just like a forum, which is what I was used to, and I've been using forums since the 80s of different, they used to call them bulletin boards. You could could ring in, and you had a telephone line. You put your receiver down, or later on they had other modems that plugged into the wall. But you basically you were in a forum, and you had different topics, and you could post a message, but you'd have to like come back the next day to see if anyone replied or not. And so this was all of that and more, because you could post pictures and links, and now all the gamers are using this stuff, and by the hundreds of millions, and it's just everyday tech. But to me, it was pretty novel. And but the best part of it was that there were this ability to live stream and have these group chats and go into voice. And so once I realized that I could do that, I was just popping in and listening. And most of the time I had the mic muted because I didn't know about so many of these different topics, and it was pretty overwhelming actually. And the level of discussion was so high, and there were so many things that were being discussed that I knew absolutely nothing about. I didn't feel like I had much to contribute, despite having already made a few of the videos on the mountain. And so then at some point I got involved in this video here, Tartarian Odyssey, Heartstones of Tartar Source. That was I think the first time I showed up. But before that, you can see, you got this secret talk with Victor Buge, Philip Drugin, and Alex Michael, who's a good friend of mine who lives not far from here. And so at some point, this is where it is here, Exertus in the talons of the albatross. So he basically hit the road, and his plan was to go to Europe and start to get on site and see a lot of these different locations that everyone had been talking about. So he flew to Spain, of all places, and I had no idea that he was even coming until he posted this video, and he was on his way, and landed in Valencia, which is about an hour from me. Everything just... Oh, there we go. Thought I lost contact there. Everything went quiet. So I was, at that point, I'd already, had a number of conversations in the Discord with you and with others, and was enjoying the alternative research. And when I found out that he was close, I reached out to him on Messenger, and we had a couple of long conversations, and then he decided to come visit. And so that was kind of how it began. And I'm going to show some of the footage that we took while he was visiting, and then he met up with Victor. Victor was traveling with a girlfriend at the time, and so was Andreas later, and we all got together and had a really good time, and met up with Alex, and so that was the origin story for how we met each other, and a whole heck of a lot has happened over the last few years. I mentioned Philip Druginen before. He was the first larger channel to reach out to me and be interested in doing an interview. And once I did that interview, the channel started to grow, and it led to a whole lot more. So this is your channel here. It's small, just a few hundred subs, but these aren't really edited videos, as I understand, right? This is more just the raw clips of the live streams that were being done. Is that correct?
Yeah, my channel is not family friendly. These are the raw edits of the Clarifics chats. So all of the cursing and all of the stuff has not been edited. There's no fancy background material. Right. And there's a few of my Starford videos, but the channel is mainly inactive because of a severe lack of technology going on.
Yeah, as I understand it, you've got a severely depressed computer. Is that correct?
Yes, it's getting old. It sort of somewhat desires a retirement home, but
so yeah. Mike has been mapping starforts and a whole lot more for the last 3 years, and you've put in literally thousands of hours of research, thousands, and a lot of people have mentioned you. I've mentioned you in a whole ton of videos and interviews. But since you don't have a channel of your own, there's no way for you to take donations. It's pretty hard for you to get the funds together in order to get a more updated bit of technology. So any donations that come in today will go directly to Tech for Mike. So if you guys are feeling generous, if you guys are feeling generous and you want to do some super chats and send some love his way, I think there's few people in this community that deserve more, who've actually done more for this community, and yeah, so please consider that if it's within your means, because like for example, he's not even able to see what I'm going to share because his computer can't handle all the stuff at the same time. So hopefully we won't have any problems later when we start going with that. And like I said, this is going to be a longer series, so I wanted to just talk about how it all began from the beginning before we start to get into the specific star fort of the day. But before we do that, maybe you can just talk a little bit about yourself, how you got interested in this subject to begin with, and if there's anything in particular you want to share with people.
I've been playing around with Google Earth for years. I don't even know how long. I just like to look at places because I don't have the means to go there.
Yeah.
Your audio. Oh no, we're good. Sorry, I'm looking at the YouTube video again, which has a delay. Sorry.
No worries.
So yeah, to get back to that, I've been doing this for years. Just looking at stuff, places I can't go. And at some point, I got interested in a bit of the alternative history, and I started hearing about Tartaria and this whole empire that was lost in history, and this is like 3-4 years ago. No idea what's going on, right? And this is supposed to be the whole of Siberia, Russia, the old Soviet Union, China. All of this stuff is Tartary.
Yeah.
It's Tartary.
Yeah, and all the maps. That was one of the big mind blows as well, because I'd never even heard of it. I wasn't a history major, but I studied a lot of history as a student for my undergrad degree. I traveled to Italy as an exchange student, and like I said in the beginning, I've lived in another number of these star forts. The first place I stayed in was in a place called Siena, beautiful star city. And I had never seen it in an aerial view. I didn't know anything about the cymatic shape, these snowflake patterns, and they're so damn big when you're inside of them. You couldn't even begin to fathom that there was such an intricate and beautiful structure to them.
Yeah, that was one of these things that made me sort of start mapping, like literally mapping out stuff. I ran into this video by Colm Gibney, and he's talking about star forts. So I start watching this thing, right? Star forts. What is a star fort? And at that point, he's literally showing the city I was born in and the fort that I lived across from. I had no idea. I lived there as about I was 8 to 10 years old or something. And so I lived across from one of these, and they're all over the world. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I have something to map out now. And Colm Gibney was showing his file, and that's still free and available. If you want to download that, you can find that on starforts.org, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Colm, I think I actually saw, there was a video of his that I saw before I ever came across anything with you, and it was showing these, it was he had one that was showing the pentagram shaped ones, and then like finishing at the pentagon, and it was just another mind blow, because I realized, wait a minute, there's way too much that's similar there for that to be random chance. And so then I started to wonder, wait a minute, is the Pentagon actually really, really old? or is that more of a recent creation? But Colm was great. He's got a great speaking voice, as do you, and wonderful to listen to. And so it may have been through Colm's channel that I ran across Andreas's, which is how we found each other. So, yeah.
That's how it eventually happened for me too. Like I ran into Colm stuff, and I got his file, and I had 1,000 star forts in it, and I'm going all over the earth, zooming in and zooming out, and looking at all these magnificent places. Mm-hmm. And I figured I want to start mapping this out for myself, because I'm pretty sure there's a whole lot more than what he mapped out, and I have a lot more time than he does.
Right.
So why not? So initially I copied pretty much his file and gave him the star labels that I use today. And from there I started expanding, looking at old maps that I got through Victor mostly, and a whole bunch of other guys in the Discord. Started sending old maps of star forts, and from there on, well, the search got more intense, and nowadays I'm back to following rivers to find star forts. Pretty much.
And the interesting thing is, there's the old maps of Tartary, which obviously caused, us to go, what the heck? Because studying history in school, and history of art and history of literature, and having studied at the University of Padova, which is the second oldest university in the world by mainstream narratives, I had never once heard the term Tartary. I might have heard of it just as an aside in relationship to the Mongols, but it never occurred to me that there might have been some great civilization. And now, obviously, that's a hotly contested topic, and people are saying that it's a psyop, and there's a lot of differences of opinion when it comes to what the truth of our history is. But I mean, I'm going to show some pictures here. You won't be able to see it, but if you start looking at some of this old world architecture, this is Siena. That's the city that I initially lived in when I moved to Italy. But these maps of Tartary, I mean, now this is old hat to people who are in this community and have been looking at this stuff. But there's so many anomalous things, and then along the way you come across these old books with incredibly detailed drawings of not just the architecture, but also this is just a random file I'm skipping through here, but also the drawings of the maps of the star citadels themselves. And when you see the size and how impressive these things are, it just takes your breath away. And to just hand wave dismiss that as that's perfectly normal based on what they've told us, and it's like no, there's a lot more to it. So maybe you can just share your screen for a little bit and give us a little brief tour of an overview of what you've done, because it is truly monumental. And like I said, any donations from today will go to New Tech for Mike, because he's desperately in need of it. Has been for a long time. Still there? There we go.
Yeah, I'm still there.
All right.
Sorry. Had to mute out. I'm sharing screen right about now.
Yeah, that's a whole heck of a lot of stars, to say the least. So try and remember to go a little bit slower than you usually do, because it takes some time to fill in. But in general, I think everyone can see.
I'll just make a lap of this funny ball. Stay at altitude.
It's kind of jumping
Keep
in and out. Do you know why it would do that? I've never seen it do that before. It's
the jumpiness is probably again because of old tech.
Oh man, this is going to be rough then.
Keep in mind that what you're looking at is not necessarily all star forts. There's also forts, walled cities, and all of that stuff that does not necessarily tie to the star narrative. as well as that I'm mapping out the Chinese walls, the Tartarian cities, Japanese fortifications and castles, and that's North America.
Wow. Okay, so maybe just show your legend. I can see the big star over there to the right.
Yeah.
So that's in Hawaii. Some say it's the navel of the world.
This is the one in the. I got
Pacific.
a couple of these for people.
Oh, you've got a second one there. Okay, yeah, that's the Atlantic. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all the colors of the stars tie to a description. If it's a dark blue one, it's a city. A light blue one is also a city, but there's nothing to be seen.
And if there's any flat earthers out there, you can clearly see it's a ball, right? I mean.
Yeah, we can
You know,
we can get into that
case
maybe
closed.
a bit later on how I am forced to work on a ball. I do not buy the ball.
Nor do many. So, yeah, this is the problem with tech is sometimes it's glitching, and so what's happening is it's kind of jumping in and out as you're doing this. But
Yeah, I'm sorry.
This is
that
another
is
thing
the-
that was kind of a narrative, not necessarily killer, but at least questioner for me, is that these things were in North America, they're in South America, they're in Africa, they're in Asia, and obviously the vast majority are all over Europe. There, as you can see, the concentration. But who would have thought? I mean, what have you mapped? I think it's up to. It's what is it? Over 10,000 now.
Yeah, I think it's over 15 marks. So I guess the amount of actual star forts, like the ones we all know from the pictures and the maps, is well over 5,000-6,000.
And some of them are when we're looking at these stars, some of them are just towers, some of them are castles, but then you have actual cities with that are walled cities, and which colors are those?
That's the dark blue ones.
The dark blue. So no
So if
shortage
you
of
take,
those either,
like,
obviously. So
The
a lot of
Iberian Peninsula, for example, here.
So a lot of
You
what
can
we
see-
what we think of as the old world and the stuff that was built in the Middle Ages and later, these are actually these star citadels.
Yeah. That also goes for the blue one, the light blue ones. But the light blue ones are just visible on an old map. So if you got an old map of, say, Spain, that denotes the fortified cities. You can see that all of these light blue ones are also former
So
star citadels.
if you zoom in where Montgo is, just to get an idea of the region that I'm in here. So all those green ones are new. I've never seen those before. You've recently mapped out. This is a combination of towers and what else?
Towers, castles, star forts.
Okay. Yeah, so there's I mean, just in this region, there's a lot to explore, and some of it I already have, which is why this is going to be a series, because I've got footage, boots on the ground footage of some of them, and it's very, very interesting. So, is there anything? I mean, I just want to say the more I've seen with Google Earth, the work that you've done, somebody who's in the chat right now, waking up with analog. He
Oh, Ben. Love you, brother.
Oh, thanks for the donation. You know where that'll go, Ben. Yeah, he was there. There was a live chat one time where you guys were going over and looking at geomancy, and which is, I'm not even sure how to define geomancy, but basically it's the way in which sacred geometry has been built into the cities, and he was going through some of the old world stuff in in the U.S. and looking at cities like Philadelphia and other places, and just utterly mind-blowing stuff. The complexity of the way in which these cities have been laid out, not just the individual buildings and the prevalence of this old world architecture that, based on my studies in school, shouldn't be there. So it's absolutely astonishing. But one of the big mind-blowing things for me was, and it's probably might be better if I show it because your screen is jumping around so much. But
I'm sorry it's doing that.
Yeah, it's strange. It wasn't doing that before, but we weren't live streaming, so I'm not sure if it's a bandwidth thing for you or what it is. It's probably because you're playing YouTube now, because for you to be able to see. But
what I could try and do is lower the quality on the live stream.
Yeah, because it's not doing it all the time. It just comes and goes.
Yeah, that's the issue. My motherboard is just not capable of receiving more data.
Right. Well, let me show some stuff.
I've got the router. I've got the cable. It's just that PC thing.
Yeah. So we'll come back to this region, but I just want to show something that was utterly mind-blowing that you and Ben were talking about. So looking at North America, I mean, you can pretty much just pick any spot and zoom in to North America, and you will find 1 mile square grids. And you don't see it initially because of all the fields that are, they're rectangles and they're all kinds of different shapes. But if you get out the measuring stick and you go from one end of this little square to the other, you find out that it's exactly 1 mile. And that in and of itself, to me, is a complete narrative destroyer, because, okay, fine for farmlands, but when you get over into areas like this, which is, this fractal pattern, what you find is that the lines go underneath I'm misspeaking here, not underneath mountains, but basically the lines are continuing parallel far further than they should. And so then they're interrupted by topography, and then they continue again. So if you start to look at this and you really examine it, I mean, just that in and of itself, that these are 1 mile square grids everywhere, is just utterly mind-blowing. And it just really starts to look like everything has been terraformed. And then you learn about Lichtenberg figures, and you realize that these rivers were probably not carved. I mean, these valleys and canyons were not carved by the rivers, but were carved in some other fashion, and that's a whole other thing in and of itself. But the vastness of these 1 mile square grids, it almost starts to make you feel like you're in a simulation, because of the perfection of the lines, and it's just too. It's too much for this to have been, laid out in this fashion. To me, with the mountains.
People are pretty good at making straight lines over a certain distance.
But doesn't this suggest some kind
not these
aerial
distances? Like it.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Yeah. It's just. I don't know. It was almost like taking a psychedelic drug the first time I. Sorry, wait for the mopeds to go by. To see this on the scope and the scale that it's at, it's beyond mind-boggling. It's bog-mindling, and that expression will come back a few times today, because we're gonna go over this footage. So if I go back to this neck of the woods, I live on this point that sticks out into the Mediterranean, and it's a really beautiful spot. And this is where Mont Go is, the mountain that I've done several videos on, exploring the concept, the idea that maybe this was once a Titan. This is another mountain called Cumbre del Sol, which I think could also be a Titan candidate, and this one as well. And there's a limestone quarry here, and this is what we're going to be looking at today. It's just a fantastic mountain, and it's got a very creature-like feel to it. You know, if you consider this to be a spine, perhaps a head, what kind of a creature, I don't know. If it was, you know, is this? It's almost like looks like almost like a whale tail. Is it a dragon? It's pretty far out. But another friend of mine, Artem, he when I was telling him about the Star Fort thing, he says, "Oh, that sounds like a place that I've been." And he was talking about Serra Bernia, and I had never been up there, and I'd wanted to go because it's an incredible hike. And if you look at it, you know, from Mont Go, you can see here's Mont Go right here. So they're just, I think it's 14 miles away, line of sight, that these mountains are from each other. And he said, "Oh, there's a star fort up on Serra Bernia." And I said, "Really?" And so he took me up, and I'm going to show some footage of it. But that star fort is way up here at 825 meters altitude, and it's one of these classic little tiny four-corner star forts, and we're going to get into the footage here in a moment. But this is a very interesting star fort for a variety of reasons, even though it's so tiny. And we can go into the footage for that a bit. Maybe you'd like to stop sharing your screen just to free up a little bandwidth for yourself.
It probably doesn't change my ability to look at what you're sharing, but
that's true.
Fair enough.
Okay. So just go here to how's everybody doing? Chat still rolling? Hi guys. Welcome. All right. So, like I said, this is Titan country, and there are different mountains here that are Titan suspects, Titan candidates, and some of them I've got boots on the ground footage of, and we'll be sharing in future videos. This is Serra Bernia from the Mont Go side. And this is just another mountain from a distance, a little closer. And this is the road up to Serra Bernia. You can get a feel for what it looks like here. Whoops. Okay. Something to remember, the space bar makes the video go away. Learn by doing, right? So.
Oops.
So just to give some orientation here, this right side of the mountain, there's a trail up here, and we're going to be going around here, and the star fort is towards the top on the other side of this mountain. And this is Cumbre del Sol, also a Titan candidate, and it's pretty fascinating mountain that it's got some very unusual geological features, or biogeological, whichever you prefer. There's these rounded, almost discs, and it's either some kind of a creature, and I don't know what, or perhaps tech of some sort, but it's really hard to imagine how that formed. Based on what they tell us. So this is the beauty of the mountain, and we parked here, and then got out of the car, and it's just astonishing. If you ever have a chance to go to this part of the world and you like hiking, this is an amazing hike, as you'll see. So I've been up there several times now with different friends, and we'll see this footage. Yeah, so we're going to go up over this little saddle and around to the left. And it's a beautiful walk in. To get a taste for the nature, how it looks. And this is another example of this. Now, you know, the mainstream geology will tell us that these are these are sedimentary layers that have been pushed up by tectonic activity, and you know, that may be true and it may not be. So this is what I'm talking about, Titan country. There's a number of different mountains that have just remarkable features.
Just like a spine, right?
Yeah, sideways.
Sorry, I'm commenting again on images from 30 seconds back.
That's okay.
My bad.
Yeah. So this is the trail in, and this is all the limestone that I've been doing a lot of videos about. There's no sign of geopolymers here. I've seen no signs of any buildings, openings, anything that looks man-made. This is all what I would call native limestone, and it's a combination of either solid blocks of limestone that have very little in the way of holes or lines going through them, and then you've got the alternative, which is more like Swiss cheese. This is the tallest mountain in the region, Puig Campana. It's, I think, 1,350 meters in altitude. And this is a whole mountain range here, which I'm going to do another video on. And I'll just give you a little teaser for that, because it's pretty awesome. And that is right here. So this is a lake called Guadalest, and right here is a beautiful star fort, and then this is a very interesting structure because it's got a line going right through the middle that goes along this whole length, and if this were a Titan, then that would be the spine, which is no longer the back portion, the bumps of our spines. If those bumps are removed, you have the channel, which is the bone marrow, or the spinal cord, and then obviously the cerebral spinal fluid would be there. So there's a massive star fort, or not massive. It's a massively cool star fort that's on top, and I think I can't spot. It's right. Yeah, it's somewhere along there. I'll show footage of that in another video. But this is Serra Bernia, and so is this a friend nearby, or is this all just tectonic activity pushing stuff upward? That's for you guys to decide. Just astonishing, breathtaking part of the world.
It's beautiful.
The air is incredible, and just being there is wonderful.
Yeah, it seems that most all of the countries in Europe got hills, except the Netherlands.
Yeah, you poor guy. It's not easy being flat and underwater, is it?
Flat and underwater.
So, I'm going to move in here a little closer. So now we're getting up onto the actual spine of this thing, coming around, and this is my friend Artem. He's the one who introduced me to the star fort, and we're just taking a look at this very, very meaty-looking stone with channels going through it, but mostly solid. So this is what I would call cortical bone in Titanology. And over here, there's two little caves that go in, and these have been blocked off. And we went in there when I was there with Victor and Andreas and tried to go deep inside, but there's all kinds of brick and mortar, or stone and mortar, that are blocking off what is, to me, obviously some sort of a large chamber inside, because there's really cool air that breathes through, and you just get a sense that there's a lot of space in there somewhere. And this is almost just like 5 minutes walk from the star fort. This is another candidate that I've been at, and there's a bunch of caves here, or a couple of caves that I will show footage of, because caves figure prominently into my theories about Titanology, because if all you have is a big lump, it's kind of hard to make any real anatomical analysis. But if it is a creature and there's an eye socket, for example, then you can do what I did with Mont Go in the second and the fifth video of the Titan series. Go up and look at it and compare it to anatomy, and do more than just look at something that's a lump and draw conclusions that it is something, when you really don't have enough information to draw those conclusions. That would be
the beauty of Pareidolia, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did a long live stream on that subject, and the importance of exercising discernment when it comes to whether it's Titans or Heartstones or a whole bunch of different things. So this is the
for me, even from above, like looking for star forts.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of people that like something triangular. That must be a star fort because it's triangular. And but there's a lot of like natural features that make something look triangular, and there's a lot of people that like to build triangular stuff too, even in these days. So like critical discernment is really important, especially when you don't have boots on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's fine if you want to fantasize or let your imagination run wild, but if you're going to start making claims and talking about something as a fact, you need more evidence than just, one angle of something that has just the right shadows to make it look like a face or a head or a creature. And there's far too much of that happening. And so then when other people who aren't familiar with any of these ideas come from outside of the community they just look at people who are talking about that stuff like total lunatics. And, rightfully so, because it's so outside of their realm of possibility. When it comes to Titans, people say it's impossible because of gravity. And I say, you mean the theory of gravity? Last I checked, they don't call it the law of gravity. And then I ask, which gravity are you invoking? Are you invoking mass attracting mass from Newtonian physics, or are we talking about Einsteinian warpage of space-time? And, then you need to do a little more study to find out whether or not there's even evidence for such things. So this is the picture that I used as the thumbnail for this video. And this is the corner of this little four-pointed star fort. And if you look at these blocks here, these are native limestone chunks, and you can tell they're the what I call the cortical bone because they don't have any holes going through them. And my suspicion is that they don't use the ones with the holes because they would be weaker. And if you want, the corners is where they're putting all the best materials to fortify these star forts is in the corners, from what I can tell, at least the ones I've seen here. And then the mortar is made from the iron ore that is found. So this whole fort is made from materials, obviously, that are found all over this region, and we'll see more of that in a second. But these are really fun to get up right next to and see. And this is tracing one of the outside walls. I think I've got some video of that.
I think they had different construction materials in some cases. Oh, shape, yes. Fortunately, we don't have the sun to really light this baby up. But you get a taste of it. Have to come back on another day when the.
So this is just one part. So you might think, oh, this is a giant laying on its back and that's the head or something, but you have to zoom out and you have to see the bigger picture, and then you realize that this is just part of that big long structure that I showed. But if I showed this picture, there's a lot of people out there would be like, that's definitely a Titan. Well, it might be part of a Titan, but it's not a Titan giant that's laying there, in my opinion.
The conditions are better for filming.
That's funny, yeah, Uncle Rico's comment. Great masonry after so many time, still strong.
Yeah. Yeah, and the question
they took material from the region, they stuck it together with material from the region, and it's still there.
Yeah, and the official story on this particular castle is that it was military construction built by the engineer Juan Bautista by the order of King Philip II in 1562. So it's pretty remarkable that when you see the construction of this thing, when we get into the inside of it, you're going to be blown away by what they were able to pull off in 1562, if that's when they really did it. At present, the remains of its floor plan, the moat and access system, as well as part of the housing structures, can still be seen. It has a double wall with a dry moat between the outside of the shape and a four-pointed star and the inside, in order to make it difficult to enter the enclosure, which has a square floor plan with pentagonal bastions at its vertices, which is accessed by the axis of the south facade. The closed building has 2 floors and were attached to the walls, leaving a square patio in the center. And we're going to see that. You can see these arches here. But that's about all they had on it, and I've pulled up a ton of different articles on this particular fort, and they're all basically just parroting these 2-3 paragraphs of information. So it'd be nice to be able to find some earlier stuff, or some more information on that. But that's what they're telling us about it anyway. And so moving right along. Oh, it's such a beautiful day there. And again, this is the one I was talking about with the caves in it, which I'll show in a future video. Puig Campana, the biggest mountain in the region, and this is not the greatest place though. Benidorm, I wouldn't recommend that as a tourist destination, but the mountains and the natural park around is amazing. So now we get in a little bit to what we're looking at here. Friend Artem. And so this is actually the moat. This is the corner, and this is the outer wall that they call it, in one of these articles I read, they call it a dry moat. And I mean, it's obviously dry now. Oh, by the way, here's another Pareidolia. If you look at this and you just rotate to the There we go, to the right. Sure looks like a face with the mouth open, and there's his big nose, right? Right? But this is not the same as this, right? If you see it from another angle, that and that are separate. So that is not the nose of a Titan.
I saw a similar
I just have to
picture
drive
of
that point home.
what's that thing in South America, up in the hills, the Inca settlement?
Oh, yeah, what is that called? Somebody in the chat will know. Machu Picchu.
Thank you. Yeah, Machu Picchu is one of those places. If you look at it from a certain angle, it looks like an old Indian face.
Exactly. But if you change the angle, it doesn't look like that anymore. And that was one of the things. You know, going back to Mont Go. You know, the last thing I wanted to do is make a video. You know, start making videos on what most people out there would consider to be the dumbest idea that you could possibly hit upon. That this was once a giant creature. But after being introduced to the idea of titans and things like what they were, you know, some call mud fossils, and just thinking about our mythology and our history, I was immediately taken by this mountain because I've seen it from so many different angles, and it's not just from one angle that it looks like an elephant. Now some people like Simon Dan are disingenuous, and he'll pick this angle and he'll go, well, an elephant doesn't have the eye right next to the edge of its face, right? In the video he made mocking me.
Yeah, but that's
as I
one
said
of those
later
things.
in the very first video I made on this subject, I'm already talking about Pareidolia and the concept of a preponderance of evidence, and you know the need to look more deeply into things from the very first video I ever made. And from that first video, I had already gathered about 40 anatomical correlations at that point that were both macro and micro. And one of the things that was interesting is that there's been a massive geological study that's been done on this mountain by mainstream geologists, and they talk about this portion having collapsed. This is known as a synclinal, and that's why, according to them, you get these curved lines, which you can't really tell so well on Google Earth, but when you see photos of the mountain. So that whole section of the mountain, according to them, has collapsed. So if it hadn't collapsed, and this is all just a big river of broken fragments of this limestone that I talk about, both the solid and the Swiss cheese limestone, and we won't even go into the whole Google sensorcery ship, because now you can't see the eye anymore unless you get really close. There it opened up. Hey, Montgo, he woke up.
Seems the chat wants star forts, Mike.
The chat wants star forts. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm not complaining. I'm always pretty much entertained.
Yeah. Anyway, that was my point, is that you need more than just one angle on things. So this is one of the underground tunnels, and I think there's about a whole section that's collapsed that you can't get into. And it's interesting, this brick here. You can see the aggregate. It's basically broken limestone, iron ore, and you know they've fused this together somehow in
it's
geopolymer.
like a man-made cave almost.
Oh, sorry, spacebar. Got two different video viewing software, and one of them I'm used to using the spacebar to pause. So this is a whole bunch of soot. People have lit fires in here. You can see the fire pit. My friend Artem, in the role of David Attenborough.
There's a poem.
He does a pretty good David Attenborough impression, I have to admit. So that is where we're looking in there, and now we're working our way around to another side. So this is another of the 4 points. And this is looking up the moat. So this is the outer wall here to the moat. And there's structures up here, which we'll see more closely in a moment. And just looking at that magnificent mountain. So you can see here how it continues on. And then it goes all the way down, and there's some really interesting biogeological formations there. So they use all of those materials, and when you get up close, you can see a whole bunch of the smooth, smaller stones, which I call petrified organs, have been used as well. This is looking down on one of the corners. And Artem standing on the same. And so from here, if you see there's a channel right here going in, and this is what we're going to look at now. It is pretty awesome.
I'm sorry, but I don't know.
1 second here. So this is entering into what may have been a water cistern. This goes in, and then this it's just been filled with stone and rubble, so it's hard to know how far back that went. But this is what it looks like inside. And you can see they've got some, this is the one part of the wall, and then this is the rendering. A word I learned from Mr. Geopol himself, Paul Cook. And this is pretty far out. That's about a 6-inch wide pipe for plumbing. Oh,
That's a lot of water.
That's sideways. Sorry. I've got a better video in a moment. And yeah, so you can see the piping is still in that hole. This whole section you're looking at here was originally one curved top, which you'll see in a second. Maybe here. Nope, that's the sideways one. So this is all geopolymer right here. This is 2 foot thick, and this was all enclosed, and it's curved. You'll see how smooth it was. It's pretty amazing construction. This is looking at these arches.
Give me a sec, Mike. I'll be right back.
Sure. Just checking with chat. How's everybody doing? Hey, Ian. Hey, Brett. Rob. Wendy. Welcome, Wendy. Welcome, Aurorian. Let's just see. So...
Bog mining.
Goofing around. It's from inside the moat.
It's truly bog mining. Bog mindling. Bog mindling.
Yeah. All right. So looking down from the star fort, and these are the different mountains in the background in the region. So now we get into the visit from these guys here. And right after running into these guys and meeting them both for the first time, the first thing we see in the storefront window is this elephant skull. So that was kind of a synchronicity. Went out for a meal. I parked my car, and this was the sculpture that was right outside of the parking garage. So I was thinking of MK Ultra and Monarch, and I thought, okay, that's appropriate based on the kinds of things that I've seen in Andreas's videos. This is in Alicante, and this is the Star Fort of Alicante, and it is a pretty phenomenal place to go as well. Way up there high, and some really beautiful old world architecture. Metallic domes. And another angle on the Star Fort of Alicante. And so then we met up with this guy here, Howard Stirrup, and went. And I took him up to the Star Fort.
It's looking the wrong way. Okay.
But yeah,
Andreas.
in general, it's basically like saying, "Are we taking pictures?"
Would you? No, we're filming. Would you agree that?
Whoops.
Oh wait, it's looking the wrong way. Okay.
But yeah,
Andreas.
in general, it's basically like saying, "Are we taking pictures?"
Would you? No, we're filming. Would you agree that this is totally bog mindling?
This is so bog mindling. The most bog mindling thing that's ever been shammy-wammy.
There you go.
Ramble-wamble.
Yeah, so it was a fun day. And I'd never even heard of the Bogdanovich brothers. That was an interesting little synchronicity that Andreas told me about on the way up. These crazy-looking guys that recently passed away, who are supposedly incredibly were very powerful, wealthy people who controlling things behind the scenes. So went up there with Victor and showed him this place. And here's the footage going into this this cistern. And looking out, and this is where you can get a sense of this 2-foot curved geopolymer, and this was originally all one piece there, protecting the location.
You have to be like outside.
Oh, this wait, you guys got to see this one more thing here. Look, check this out. Look at this. Yeah, that's like. What is that, about 6 inches?
That was originally under
but
this
it's going through this,
material.
so is it modern, or is that original plumbing for this baby? What were you seeing there that was of interest?
So I mean, think about this. This was built in the 1500s. They're pouring concrete and on this kind of a scale at 825 meters altitude. So you're back.
Yeah, there was a question in the chat a little earlier about the one you showed in Alicante.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even that high. It's a lot bigger, admittedly. But
Yeah.
that makes you wonder, right?
Mm.
How did they get all of that stuff up there? And if it were just one, yeah, fair enough. But castles and star forts are all over the mountains and the hills, and the plains, riverbeds. They're everywhere.
Yeah. And this
There
is
are
that.
places where it's not even logical to build a star fort.
Yeah, so my thoughts about star forts have evolved a lot over the last few years, obviously, and one of the things that I've noticed, at least in this region, is that there's a lot of these star forts seem to be on these massive structures. These massive stone, places like in Denia, for example.
Yeah.
That are what I'm calling the native limestone, and so that's your bedrock. That's what they're building these things on, and I think it's also because they were mining the Titans, and I've talked about this in the past, where the terraces in the sixth Unveiling a Titan video, I show that this entire region has been completely terraformed. This is just a picture I was showing of the aggregate, and you can see it's got these little stones mixed in, and people who've been following the channel are going to recognize these shapes of these stones that have this harp shape format. This is another similar fort that has these arches. I think you might have sent me this one, and it says Old Ruins Historic Louisborough. I don't know where that is.
Louisbourg, that's Nova Scotia.
So that's North America, and it's basically the exact same design if you think about it, and with the arches. And so were they building star forts there in the 1500s as well?
So that's the thing you gotta wonder, right? It's the maybe we can show some on the screen share later on.
Yeah, we can.
Of the whole worldwide. Like I showed something earlier, but maybe new people came in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering why they're looking at Titans instead of star forts. I really like it again, Mike. I don't mind.
Yeah. So this is an aerial view with the drone of the four-pointer, and
You never sent me that image.
I just found that one today.
Good.
Searching for aerial. Now, going back to the topic of biogeology and titanology, there's a tunnel that goes through Serra Bernia. If we go back over there, where is it? Right here. So there, somewhere there, right there. This tunnel goes right through the mountain, and it's to me it's just very fascinating, because this is not man. I mean, maybe people have carved the remainder of the tunnel, but it goes through. It's about 50 meters long, maybe a little bit longer, and it. Come on. There we go. So you can get a sense, and this just has, to me, a very biological feel, and for all those Roger Spur fans, no, this is not a vagina, I don't believe. But you know.
Yeah, don't get me started about your detractors, Mike. Let's keep it civil.
So this is the mountain as a whole from the other side, and yeah, so that is the footage that I wanted to show of this little star fort, which is our star fort of the day, and so the plan for this series is to in the next video, hopefully our tech will be a little better, and cover some of the other star forts in the region, and talk a bit more about some of the different structures. Like this one is pretty fascinating. Almost looks like an elephant from that angle. How does that happen with tectonic activity, I wonder? Just like sticks up there all by itself. Yeah, and that was that. So let's just say hi to the chat here. Yeah, so the next video we'll cover a couple more star forts in this region, and then I'll do a video on Siena as well, which is an incredible city. Then from Siena I moved to a place called Padova, which is, just show Padova real quick. So we have Venice somewhere. That's Trieste. Where's Venice?
You're working with an older file, aren't you?
An older file?
Of the collection.
Oh yeah, my Starfort collection is about 2 years old. I need to get it updated. But this is the town that I lived in for about a year. And I had no idea when I was living there that this was a star citadel, and that the wall goes all the way around, and there's a lot that's interesting about this city. And then it's by train, it's just about a half an hour to this incredible place, Venice, which is utterly mind-blowing. And this is I think this whole lagoon is man-made. These islands as well. I did my final research project for my degree in Italian Cultural Studies at UCSB on Venice and all the changes that were going on to the city, and the way in which pollution from the Padana region, which is this whole agricultural region here. So much incredible food that comes from the Padana, but they're using so many pesticides, and the pesticides are coming down the Po River and basically killing off all the vegetation in the lagoon. And the problem with the vegetation getting killed off is that the vegetation is what was holding the sand dunes, the underwater sand dunes, in place. And so then what happens is the sand dunes were protecting from the high water when the storms would come. And they've just done so many things to screw up this region. They also opened a new channel so that the big cruise ships could come right in next to Venice. So bit by bit, they've just been utterly destroying the ecosystem in a way that may be irretrievable. So the water levels are rising, and it's eroding the sides of the buildings, and it's just crazy. So I did a whole report on that once upon a time. And then from Italy, I went back home, and then I moved to Rome after that. And I lived in Rome for a couple of years, so I know Rome pretty well, but I'm not so good at finding it. Is that it?
More to the south.
More to the south. Obviously Rome is itself one big giant star citadel.
You put the Starfort map on, and it's surrounded by forts. It's one with yellow.
There we go.
I could share.
Yeah, do that. That's Vesuvius, by the way. So let's go back to the monkey. Give you a chance to monkey around. Unleash the beast. Are you sharing? I don't see it.
Should be. Should be.
It's
up to your application to resume.
It's
working?
Spinning around, and if I stop watching you and then I watch you again, it's just got these two little blue squares spinning in circles. Maybe stop sharing and then share again. This is why 13th Monkey needs a new computer. Is it?
Yeah.
I've said it a couple times in the stream, but any super chat donations will go to Tech for Mike, because he's got a computer that's way too old, and the thousands and thousands of star forts that he's mapped are they need to be seen and understood. Try sharing
What's
that.
up with that? Just immediately pauses it for some reason.
Shouldn't be anything with OBS.
No, it's most likely my system. Don't get it.
Well, to be continued, huh? We'll stream.
Nope, just immediately pauses the stream for some reason. Let's see.
Yeah, someone mentioned an older map talking about Vesuvius. That was a very interesting thing as well. When you find these old maps, this is one of the ways that you found a whole lot of star forts was the old maps, because
Yeah.
you wouldn't necessarily see them when you were going over with Google Earth, but then once you had the maps, you could they were so accurate you were able to find loads of them that way, weren't you?
Heaps and heaps came from old maps because of the other destruction going on with them.
And that's when you find the buried ones as well, where you find like
Yeah.
they've been covered in earth. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. But that star fort, that's I had a video I was going to show here. Oh, can't find it. It's this one.
Spiders?
Oh, the spiders down there?
Oh yeah.
Not here, but there's a way you can get.
Okay, this wait. Well, you see it here.
Yeah, this is a must-do, I think.
Yeah, it's
Hey.
pretty cool. We need to see the spiders?
I
I
can't
think
see.
it's pretty cool. Okay, I might come down and like. They're on the wall, you don't have to touch them. Okay.
It seems that it's your video stream that is blocking me
There's
from.
awesome up there.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
It-
something up there
I'll turn it
energetically
off in a
because
second. I just wanted to show this.
just causes me to make like an antenna.
Oh,
And
really?
that happened in Cambodia and in certain places in India.
So you like that spider room you're saying?
Yeah. Not the spider part of it, but there's something about that.
That's very,
It had a function.
It's very dark.
very Return of the Jedi.
But how do you feel about the phrase "weaving spiders come not
Well,
here"?
I feel like I've conquered a little bit my arachnophobia.
Now I gotta go hang out with the spiders more. What do you have to go and say that for?
Jump out your comfort zone, it's good for you.
Yeah.
They tried to get me in there. I wasn't having it.
Welcome to the mud flood. This is also we can see.
Yeah, if that's not,
Afraid of a little spider.
that's going up
This
at
is like
like.
the Martha Stewart redecoration show about star forts. If
That's-
you have too much room in your star fort, you can use a
Yeah,
simple
some
mud flood to really open up
Well,
the roof. of your
we
star
want
fort.
like in Scandinavia, an open dining and living room.
Yeah.
White people renovating houses.
Yeah, star forts.
White people renovating.
Tartarians renovating star forts.
Oh, well.
So this
You
room
cannot say white
is
anymore.
circular,
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
and
that was
it's
really interesting.
like
So
an opening that goes into an inner chamber, but
that was an unexpected thing. Is that this is the corner of the star fort that we're in, and in the very corner, the room was it was a perfect circle.
hold on, I'll go in a second.
Wind on a hill.
And so the room
Scottish.
goes around a circle, but you got an entry here that's flooded at like a 45-degree angle with earth that suggests there might have been a mud flood. Goes way back into there to a big man-made tunnel that encircles probably the whole fort once upon a time. And what else? Anything I missed?
Did you talk about the proto-grout, the proto-cement? Because these rocks are held together with a kind of clay that's got seashells or something broken up into it, which is the same bone material.
Yeah, the whole
Sorry.
thing seems to be made out of
Moving
blocks
around
of
the
solid
camera too fast
limestone
for it,
that don't
but
have a lot of holes in them.
Yeah, and the parts between it have kind of cemented them together.
But that was the
to, like
main
in a
point,
crystal
was
ball.
that this whole star fort, it's up there at the top of the mountain, and above it is all stone, but the star fort is 2/3 covered in mud, and so where did the mud come from? That's the question. I think it was deposited, perhaps. So what were you saying I needed to stop? Stop sharing?
In Discord, you have a video conversation with me going on,
In Discord. Okay. So
and it seems that is the buggy thing.
So if I turn off my camera,
Let's see what happens. Share screen. Maybe if I...
that might have been what was
Google Earth.
making it buggy before. I didn't realize that I was running video within Discord. Have you shared your screen yet?
No, not yet. Just restarting Google Earth.
There we go.
Let's see what happens.
Minimize your application. Hold on a second. I've got myself here a wonderful device given to me by my dad many years ago. It's called the Rapid Reality Reorganizer. We're just going to try it out now and see if it works. Because this whenever there's a disturbance in the mictinium, you can just use the Rapid Reality Reorganizer, and that usually gets the job done. So I Mandela affected it. Still says stream paused, so it's a no-go for your show, Monkey Doe.
Oh, maybe I can rejoin you on the Discord, restart the PC, and see if that does anything.
Can try that.
Yeah.
Stop watching, and we'll disconnect and reconnect from Discord. And pop out. Whoops. Close stream. Where are ya? You there?
Let's see if I'm there. I'm there.
Last try. Hey, now it works.
Discord updated itself.
Is that what happened?
Thank you, modern technology. We love you so much.
Well, considering this is the first time I've ever had a guest on, I'd say this has gone pretty well.
Oh, hit pause.
Especially since I've only done streaming at all for 3 or 4 times now.
Now it pauses.
Oh,
Yep.
close Google Earth and reopen it. That seems like a Google Earth problem at this point.
I can't even close Google Earth. Right. Well, I'm going
This
to
this is why
see what happens.
13th Monkey needs a new system. Cricket noise. So, hey everybody, 45 watching. Welcome. Good to have you all here. And we'll wait for Mike to come back. The Rapid Reality Reorganizer, I think it was a little too strong. I'll share a little story while we're waiting for him. So I was walking with Andreas. I love synchronicities, and there was a point where we were walking, did a little hike up a hill not far from my office here, and we walked by a set of bushes that were filled with jasmine flowers, and the smell of jasmine, especially right at sunset, is absolutely incredible. Yeah, look at all these wrenches. It's all wrenches, winches and wrenches. So I was breathing in the wonderful jasmine perfume, and I said to Andreas, you know, I've never seen a perfume where they can actually capture the true scent of jasmine, and it was every time I've ever smelled jasmine perfume, it always smells like a medicine or something. It's just nothing like the original. And so we were walking, and Andreas says, well, it's funny you say that. So he reaches into his backpack, and he pulls out this like metal vial, and he screws the top off of this thing. It looks kind of turn of the century, like almost Antiquitech or something. And he turns it, and he drops this tube out of the vial, and he says, try this. And so I sprayed a little bit on myself, and it was perfume that smelled exactly the same as the flowers. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, literally, I say this thing, and he pulls out of his backpack out of this tube, and it's jasmine number 17. And it smells exactly. And so it's some perfumeria in New York, I think, that produces this stuff. And it's not cheap. It's like $130 or something like that for 3 little vials. But he gave me... There he is. He's back. Welcome.
Hello.
So let's see here. Wait 1 second.
Shall we try it again?
Yes.
Let's see if we have some more luck this time around. I don't know.
Trying. It's not share my screen. Wait a minute. Now I've forgotten how to get you back up. Rookies. Or I'm the rookie.
Amateurs. Rookies and amateurs all.
Yeah.
Well.
So, wait a minute. OBS. It's the Discord. Oh, it's pop out? No. Share my screen? No. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Got it. How many different pieces of software have I used today? Okay, turn off camera. I don't need my camera on. And there's the grid. All right, are you sharing it?
I should be right now.
There we go.
Right. Let's give this a whole nother go. I'll put the YouTube thing up to see how incredibly choppy it is and how fast I can go. Because you wanted to show Rome.
Rome. Yeah, it's not moving at all. Oh, there.
No, I'm not moving at all. Yeah.
Okay.
I
see your
was
hand.
looking for the YouTube thing. There you go. My hand is moving. Okay, Rome. There's Italy. Again, looking at the color system, it's the blue, dark blue stars that are visible cities with balls. Well, as far as Rome goes, Rome sort of has 2. sort of. Because there's the Vatican City, which defined by its borders alone is a star citadel. Right next to this
Castello di Sant'Angelo.
this castle that was built in 300 AD. Sort
300
of, somewhat.
300 AD. How does that work with the mainstream narrative when it comes to
Oh.
star forts?
The 1500 story is somewhat, bugged.
That's suspicious, don't you think?
And then there's the walls around Rome that are also, for at least part,
The Vatican City.
suspiciously. Now the red line is where Rome.
Okay.
Rome has some.
So everything to the left was outside the walls.
So the yellow bars you see here.
That's Vatican City.
I'm going too fast. But the yellow lines here, that's Vatican City, and you can see that's a citadel. A walled city with its companion star. And then they have the walls of, sorry, too fast again probably.
That's all right. It's pretty clear.
I drew out the walls of Rome so you can see the red line.
Yeah.
All this whole part is fortified with bastions.
So this
And
is the
then-
kind of work that Mike has done. He's not just mapped out all the forts, he's mapped out walls, he's been following the Great Wall of China or Tartary and a whole bunch of other anomalous features found around the realm. You know, we were talking about the grid earlier, and there's a whole lot that is quite unusual. Those yellow ones, those are smaller star forts? Those are like satellite star forts?
Yeah, that's the satellites around Rome, which is a returning phenomena. Let's see if this is an intact one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a phenomena that returns all over, at least Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And the only one that I'm familiar with, and please, I'm not a historian. The only one I'm familiar with is the one around Amsterdam. And they say that was used to flood the lands around the city so that invading armies could not get to it. Which in the case of Rome would sort of be defeated by the fact that it's built on 7 hills. So that doesn't go.
Yeah, I
And-
remember you were showing me like Antwerp and Paris, and you've got all of these. It's like you've got the main citadel, which is the ancient center, but then all of these rings around the city as well that are filled with star forts.
Paris is a nice example of a star city you can no longer see, but all of the works around it are. Well, not all of them, but most of them. So this is Paris. And if you have a bit of a discerning eye, you can almost see where the old wall around Paris was. Maybe there's a map tied to it. Oh, we're lucky. There you go.
Oh yeah, that's another thing you did. A lot of these
No,
old maps.
that's not an ongoing thing anymore.
Oh, okay. But that was cool because there was a point there where many of these star cities you could just click on the star and the map would come up. That was a nice feature. But yeah, you can see the satellites there. There's a lot of little villages. What a place.
And even the if you zoom in, I can't on this particular map, but if you look at this little here, that's also a fortified little city. Here in the southwest corner of the map, all of these cities show traces of fortification, which if you go back and zoom out again from Paris, it shows it's the light blue stars. There, 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 there.
Mm.
That's all little
It's all part of the same
fortified
superstructure.
cities. I'm not sure of superstructure, but all of these light blue stars you see here were once fortified towns or cities. And that goes, I think this might cover it. No. But this is one of those region maps that shows where the fortified cities and the stars were located.
Somebody asked for a link to the Perfumeria, and it is called... Yeah, I mean, what are the odds of that? Me talking about something that I've never encountered ever, and then he pulls the thing that I've never encountered out of his backpack. I was like, this guy's a wizard or something. There's something really weird going on here, but I can't make out. Let me turn on the light. It's dark in here. Sun went down. Oh yes, of course. It's the manufacturer name is Le Labo, Lelabo, and the jasmine is number 17. And there's a bunch of other scents that I've. Andreas had one or two others that were amazing as well. Yeah, look at all those stars. It's like
Another sort of beautiful narrative beater is the entire country, well, the two countries of the United Kingdom and Ireland.
Well, that ties into all the work that Paul Cook has been doing, because he's gone all over that lower coastline of England there, and he's gone deep into the cliffs, and he's showing that when you go deep into these little tunnels, the further in you go and the further down you go, the more you get these megalithic blocks that are something like straight out of Lebanon or Turkey, and the underground tunnels are unbelievable. He's done I think a 3-part series on Nottingham that is just incredible.
Not just that. If you take the official narrative, Napoleon built these things.
Okay. Right.
Napoleon never got to the UK, or Ireland for that matter.
But I mean, the point being that the coastline is man-made, or not naturally formed. These are geopolymer blocks, and it's very obvious when you go through Paul Cook's work. He's done incredible stuff. Highly recommend it. And I've seen at least half of Paul Cook's videos, and nothing that he's shown in his videos is conflicting with the things that I've found with regards to Montgo. So that's an interesting thing. That's why I invited him down here. I wanted to show him around and see what he thought, and see if he could come up with something that might contradict the kinds of things that I'm finding. But I really admire the work that he's doing, and if you're not subbed to him, I recommend it, because you'll learn a lot, guaranteed. And, is that yours?
This is the one that got it started. Yeah.
Yeah. How it all
And
began.
just to, I want to give people an idea of the immense scale of a star fort.
Yeah, what's the measurement across
Just
that?
by, it's not even going about measurements. It's what you see when you're on the ground, and how sort of somewhat disappointing that is. If you go here, this is right at the corner from the house I lived in.
Yeah, a little
you
different
look
from
at
the one I
the-
showed in Alicante, sitting atop this massive stone structure.
And you look at the star fort. What do you see?
It doesn't look very exciting.
This whole green strip there is not part of it. That's sea defense. But yeah, basically from these white buildings here, this angle, brownish colored part, and then all the way up to somewhere here. There's nothing to see. It's fairly disappointing.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that at all. That's, I would have expected there to be walls. Like the walls in Siena were 3 stories tall.
Well, they're still...
When,
They're not 3 stories tall, but if you stand on the parking lot, you can see it's still...
Yeah,
That's still 3-4 meters tall. I mean, the gate here is well capable of letting a truck through.
Right. Yeah, the walls
I
in Siena...
can't get into the fort with the Google mobile thing, but...
There's a parking area in Siena that the school buses or the tourist buses come in and they park at, and they're right next to the main wall of the fort, and the wall is easily 3 or 4 times taller than the bus.
The same goes for Rome.
Yeah.
My mother sent me pictures from Rome, and I was looking at those walls and think, what were you actually defending yourself from? It sort of really made me wonder, like, big creatures, maybe? Giants?
Yeah.
Monsters? Dragons? But that's another thing that whilst you point that out is, again, bringing up that critical discernment. Not all star forts are ancient structures. They're not. It's... happily believe if you want to, but they're just not. This city, as fond of it as I am, it's a new city. It's new in the narrative, and there's a lot of documented history on when and where these things were built. This city doesn't show up on old maps because most of the country I live in was a swamp. Period.
So, do you have older, like, photographs of construction, or how old is that supposed to be as far as the narrative goes?
As far as the narrative, this is built by Napoleon.
So 1700s.
1700s. So photography, I wouldn't
Yeah,
say,
that was
but there is a lot of documentation. Whereas these cities like Medemblik, Enkhuizen, Hoorn, Alkmaar. Alkmaar is with the oldest cities in the Netherlands, and that's the star fort too. But that's something, like, again, bringing up critical discernment. I'm just mapping stuff out, and I'm well with a lot of the going theories on definitely water distribution. That's beyond any doubt for me. Gas distribution is very well and highly possible. I have an old map that says copper mines were fortified. But yeah, there's still like a need for discernment.
Yeah, a lot of people will speculate, a great deal and come to conclusions about things, and then you dig into. I mean, this is the whole thing in the community with Iwar and Wooden Nichols. Their dialogues have stirred up a lot of people because Iwar has flip-flopped on different things that he said earlier on, and there were a lot of things that I believed and said also about the World's Fairs and about star forts and the tech is there. You can see the old photographs. You can see how they could do things. So you don't have to invoke ancient aliens or anti-gravity devices to explain the construction of things. I'm not saying that the mainstream narrative is accurate, but yeah, good old Amsterdam. What a place. It's truly phenomenal, the scope of that, and especially when you consider that even that Grand Canal there is probably man-made as well, right? I mean, everything else has been has been terraformed.
This whole strip here? You mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
Yeah, that's the North Sea Canal. That is modern.
Yeah.
Same with the harbors. It's all dug out.
If you've ever been to Amsterdam and tried to walk from one side of that red line to the other, it takes quite a while.
Give me 1 second, Mike. I'll be right back.
Sure. So, well, that was fun. Took a lot of hours to get it all set up and had some technical difficulties, but got things working in the end. So hopefully this will be smoother next time, and we'll just get to the meat of it all without wasting a bunch of time. But it was also fun to go through the history of how we both got on this subject and how we got to know each other, and it's been fun. Those old Chlorifix chats, which are on Andreas's channel, still were it was really. I mean, now there's so many different channels. This is 3 years ago, and Andreas and I think Martin Liedtke and possibly John Levy. There was very few that were even out there talking about these things back then. So it's been fun to see how it's evolved. But now you got all kinds of factions. You've got the melted building crew. You've got the there's just all these different groups that have decided to point fingers at each other and
I find
call
that
each
so
other
sad.
shills, and it's really a bummer. And I think it's great when people get new information and they're willing to change what they're saying about things, instead of just digging in their heels and saying no, it's this. I did that in a live stream. I found through Eugenie, who's another one in our group, and
Much love.
found these photographs of construction of the World's Fairs, like every stage of construction, not just the ladder layers. Putting, you've got these photos that where they shopped. There's like the background sky looks unnatural, and there was a lot to suggest that maybe they were trying to hide stuff. But then it took 3 years before these pictures of the actual construction started to come out, and then Wooden Nickels has exposed a lot more, and there's more and more archives that weren't showing up in the Google searches because they're behind private paywalls, basically, of private collections that people had access to, but they weren't part of this community. So there's a lot of people jumping to conclusions based on lack of information, and then when the information comes along, they don't change their stories, and that's a problem, because then it just makes everybody look stupid, because you got people that are making claims about the World's Fairs that are absolutely false, and all the evidence is there to prove that it's false. So we need to be a little more cautious before making claims or before accusing others, and that's what that whole Pareidolia live stream that I did the other day was all about.
Yeah, I think it was really good.
So maybe this is a good point to wrap it up. There's so much to show, and obviously you've got thousands of things you could zoom in on, and next time we'll have more of an outline. We'll have some specific things to talk about. We can maybe get somebody else on here. Ben would be fun to talk to, and just explore these things more. I have personal contact with Siena, with Rome, and when I moved to Sweden, I lived in a place called Kristianstad, which is close to Denmark, and that is an amazing spot as well. That was a star citadel that I was living in, and I had no idea. Lived in an old, what a lot of people are calling Tartarian buildings, and then Stockholm itself is another giant one, and it just, there's been a lot of these star forts in my life, and I didn't even know it until I came across you. So big thanks to you for all the work that you've done and all this mapping, thankless mapping. I mean, it's
Don't
just,
call. I wouldn't.
no, I mean, but you know, you've given your KMZ file out in the past and not even gotten so much as a shout out, and I think that's terrible. What are the squares?
This is all Chinese wall stuff. So
No, but you got green squares there.
yeah, that's all walls. That's
Okay.
fortifications that are
Yeah.
right next to the wall.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I don't have everything marked out because this is pretty much a continuous work in progress, and the last thing I could care for myself is what you call that, the legend that says all the colors and what all the things are. Like I don't need that. I know what I'm looking at, and seeing as I don't really stream, this thing goes out to people that don't use it. Here I am.
Yep. The I almost I was putting together another stream today, and I wasn't sure which one I wanted to do, but I was going to call it manufacturing scarcity, because if there's anything that I've really come to understand is that this realm is far greater and more fantastic than I ever could have dreamed when I was younger. Even after I finished my bachelor's degree and I studied in Italy and studied history and art and all these things, I didn't have a clue about how much there was out there and how magnificent it is. And one of the things that was just astonishing is to realize how much agriculture, how much space there is, how we're all crammed into these tiny areas, and the amount of resources that are out there. How many people would you guess inhabited this realm before the cataclysms?
Hundreds of billions.
Hundreds of billions. Wrap your mind around that, because I'm in total agreement based on what I've seen. I mean, there's a little, you don't need to go to it now because I don't want to spoil it for the next time, but there's a little tiny section of Africa, like Africa this big,
Yeah.
a little tiny circle like that of Africa that there's a guy who did a study on it, and it's all old canals, and it's clear that it's infrastructure where it shouldn't be, and on a scale that you can't even imagine. And he estimated, what was it, about 10 billion, that little tiny circle was capable of feeding 10 billion people based on agriculture today and how much we're able to grow per acre. So, and then you were looking at it further and you realize, wait a minute, these lines extend a lot further than what this guy had drawn around. So that one little tiny section of Africa, based on what we know about agriculture today, was capable of feeding 20 billion people. Think about that. Think about how big Africa is, and then think about how small Africa is in relationship to the rest of the world. Not that anything about Africa is small.
No.
But I'd say that it's a good spot to leave it, and we'll pick this up another time. Now I've got the hang of it a little better, so hopefully it'll be a lot smoother, and we'll be quicker to the punch when it comes to the next round. So any super chats coming in today will go to New Tech for 13th Monkey, who has been one of the great cornerstones of the truther community over the last 3 years, and has got tech that is far too inferior for what it should be. So if any of you have deep pockets and want to put it to something good, anything coming in today will go to him. So be earmarked for, at the very least, what was it? A new video card, right?
Well, the graphics card is sort of the best component in the whole PC, because I bought that just before the whole what was that? The crypto thing went off.
Right. And then the prices went up.
That's
and
the
they
one
became
part
very
in my
scarce.
PC that's sort of like decent.
Oh, that's okay. All right. Okay. Well, Anybody want to throw in a last minute question before we sign off here?
Yeah, sure. I'll take
It's all,
questions.
we're preaching to the choir at this point. It's all blue. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will do this again in the not too distant future. How many resets? That's a good question.
Oh, I dare not answer how many resets.
Yeah, I think
if
there's.
you want to go back to the core of what, like, a lot of people ask, that this is a nice one to sort of answer or go into. A lot of people ask, what are the star forts? And if you ask me personally, I think they're an evolution of mounds.
Oh, you mean from the mound builders?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Like
a
a lot of,
really interesting subject that Ben
Yeah, I'd love to have Ben here for
Analog
that.
knows a ton about. Analog's got such an incredible grasp on history, both mainstream history and he has a depth of knowledge about things. So we'll definitely, maybe we'll invite him on for our next show, because I really, when it comes to these star forts, to me, I'm mostly curious, and I'm not one of the experts out there by any means. I just find it to be an incredibly fascinating topic, and I love hearing the speculations and seeing the evidence that's been presented by others. But to like lead the show on star forts, I'm not the guy for that. Several others out there could do a much better job. But thank you very much to Aurorian for a €20 or $20 donation. That will go to New Tech for
much appreciated.
for Mike. And on that note, let's say goodbye. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I appreciate the time. And one last thing from Derp. He says, anyone listening to Alba Weinman, who I haven't heard of, she's got some awesome work on past lives, and some of them are crazy. Not all human-based lives these people have lived. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. When you think star forts, you also have to think tunnels and underground. And if there's anything Paul Cook has
100%.
shown, and I mean, we already know that there's incredible underground tunnel systems all over the realm. That, that's just a topic unto itself. And you've got the mounds, you've got so much that seems to intertwine, all the canals, all the irrigation systems that are utterly bog-mindling.
Yeah, that's the thing why I came to those mounds. It's like it's an evolution, and that's why you see different styles of forts in different countries.
Yeah.
But in some way or the other, they all seem to tie back to each other as well. Like, they look slightly different here, and they look slightly different there, but in the end, there's a whole lot of them everywhere that are bastion-walled fortifications, built upon something else, even.
Yeah, and so much of the lowest level appears to be geopolymer, so that suggests an advancement and a tech, and then you can have as much as 3 levels on top of that, from what I understand. So it's just, this place is so. My dad used to use an expression. He said it's beyond the beyond, and this place is definitely beyond the beyond. People who think they've got a grasp on it and a handle on what's going on here, I think oftentimes they don't have a clue about how little they know.
Yeah. The only places on Earth that I haven't found actual star forts are Australia and Antarctica. And Antarctica isn't real.
Yeah, Antarctica's that's just a silly CGI contraption.
Yeah, we
they've
could
given us.
go into that
Same thing
maybe
with
in
the
a
North
future
Pole.
episode. And
We'll save that
I'll
for
show
another
you
one.
why this.
But
why this ball is not the ball.
we can finish with what I hope is your second favorite Titan. I think you know which one I'm talking about. There it is, right there. Tell me that doesn't look like a plumed serpent. I mean, that's a 1,500-mile long dragon, if you ask me. So Anyway,
Could be a neat case of Pareidolia, but
could be Pareidolia. I'm not
There's
saying
a-
it's a dragon, but it's a dragon.
there's so many of these. Well, let's just easily call it monster-shaped things on Earth. You turn all the features off, you turn all the stars off, the borders, the lines, and everything that is interfering with what you're looking at, and you start seeing a whole lot more things, and it's funny to play with. But let's end it on that one, because otherwise I'm going into Africa looks like a begging doggy.
I think we might have been downsized. Though my son makes me feel like they're getting bigger. All right, everybody. Thanks again for joining in. It was really fun. And until next time, signing off. Take care, everybody. Keep your hearts soft. They work better that way. Ciao.
Ciao.